Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today, a little bit of reporting on the Trump dump is being fined almost $1 million. And let's go into it. I tried to do a live stream on it, and it went on for 15 minutes before I discovered that the chat was screaming at me that the sound was horrible. And I do apologize for that. That live stream, when I tried to edit it, it was impossible. So I've taken it down and just do a normal video on it. I do have the court papers, but it's more or less straightforward. It's a 46-page decision where he is very vocal and spicy about what he thinks about these frivolous lawsuits that Mr. Trump gave to him or brought forward to the court. And well, let's check in with instead some news reports on it. CNBC. Dan Mangan reports key points here. A federal judge imposed nearly $1 million in sanctions on former President Donald Trump and his lawyers for filing a frivolous lawsuit against Hillary Clinton and others. This case should never have been brought, wrote Judge John Middlebrooks in U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Florida on his order sanctioning Trump. Well, there is a bit more to that, because it's the sanctions, the fine is against both Trump and his lead attorney. And considering that Mr. Trump has a hard time paying his lawyers in the past, I really hope she was paid in advance, because this, if it comes to the bar, it might be the last case she ever had. Trump's lawsuit claimed that Clinton, the Democratic National Committee, former FBI officials and others conspired to weave a false narrative that his 2016 presidential campaign was colluding with Russia. Now, in my opinion, the reports of the Mr. President Putin and former President Trump, allegedly acquaintances, and everything that has been reported allegedly, in my opinion is, yeah, I would take that as proof enough for me to have an opinion about it. And that is that Mr. Trump was a Putin marionette. A federal judge on Thursday imposed nearly $1 million in sanctions on former President Donald Trump and his lawyer for filing a since dismissed frivolous lawsuit against Hillary Clinton and many others. I believe it was 31 others, which had claimed they tried to rig the 2016 presidential election in her favor by smearing Trump. How do you smear Donald Trump? I highly doubt he can ever put on a defamation suit against anyone, because how can his reputation be any lower? We are confronted with a lawsuit that should have never been filed, which was completely frivolous, both factually and legally, and which was brought in bad faith for an improper purpose, wrote Judge John Middlebrooks in U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Florida in his order sanctioning Trump and his attorney Alina Habba. Oh, good, he came into that, this reporter. Trump's suit, which sought $70 million in damages, accused Clinton and 30 other defendants of conspiring to weave a false narrative during the 2016 election that Trump and his campaign were colluding with Russia in their efforts to win the race. Well, in my opinion, they were colluding with Russia. Middlebrooks, in his order, Thursday noted that Mr. Trump is a prolific and sophisticated litigant. These are very, very nice wording of serial litigant. And that's not a good thing. Who is repeatedly using the courts to seek revenge on political adversaries. He is the mastermind of strategic abuse of the judicial process, and he cannot be seen as a litigant blindly following the advice of a lawyer, Middlebrooks wrote. He knew full well the impact of his action. As such, I find that sanctions should be imposed upon Mr. Trump and his lead counsel, Ms. Haba. Under the order, the Republican Trump and Haba are jointly severely liable for the total amount of sanctions the judge imposed to cover the defendant's attorney's fees and costs. $937,989.39. That amount is about $120,000 less than what the defendants jointly requested for sanctions. And on top of that, I also read in the decision that they had quite heavy discounts on their attorney's fees, from 25 to 66%, I believe. And it's still almost $1 million. Not as much as Miss Heard's defense, but then again, this case in the Southern District of Florida only lasted 6 months. I bet you if Trump could have been able to, he would have drawn this out indefinitely. Luckily, this judge said, not in my court. The amount of fees awarded in this case, while reasonable, is substantial, Middlebrooks noted. He called the legal pleadings filed in this case by Haba abusive litigation tactics, and said the original lawsuit and a later 186-page amended complaint were drafted to advance political narrative, not to address legal harm caused by any defendant. The amended complaint is a hodgepodge of disconnected, often immaterial events, followed by implausible conclusion. And also read in the decision, the way they formed the complaint, Mr. Trump and his attorney, is that they started with one claim, unsubstantiated, which led to next claim that was based on this first bad claim, and then another, and then another, and then back to the top. That is a circular argument. It's a fallacy, and it's a bad one, and that should never be used in court by anyone. This is a deliberate attempt to harass, to tell a story without regard to facts. Haba did not immediately respond to a request for comment on the order. Trump, who is seeking the 2024 GOP presidential nomination, filed his suit in March against Clinton, who was the 2016 Democratic presidential nominee. And here are a few of the other defendants. The suit claimed that Clinton and other defendants falsified evidence, deceived law enforcement agency, and engaged in other skullduggery that made even the events of Watergate pale in comparison. Yeah, Mr. Trump has a vivid imagination. Middlebrooks earlier dismissed the lawsuit against Clinton and all other defendants with prejudice, which bars Trump from refiling their complaint. Well, he can still try to appeal, but that I suspect is futile. and he might need a new lawyer for that, because this one might not be practicing law for much longer. Middlebrooks' order is the latest in a series of embarrassing legal setbacks for Trump, which has included a criminal conviction last month in New York State Court of his Manhattan-based real estate company, the Trump Organization, for a years-long tax avoidance scheme. Yeah, they get you on the taxes. Trump and his company also face major civil lawsuit by New York's Attorney General for an alleged scheme to misstate the valuation of real estate assets for financial gain. And Trump also is being sued by the writer E. Jean Carroll, who accuses him of R-ing her in the mid-1990s in New York. Ah, that might be something I can look into. A state grand jury in Georgia recently completed gathering evidence and hearing testimony as part of an ongoing criminal probe into whether Trump illegally tried to overturn the result of the state's 2020 election, which he lost. Oh, isn't he in prison? Any other than Trump would have been in prison by now, I believe, for alleged crime. Need to use alleged more often. And federal prosecutors are investigating Trump for his bid to reverse his loss in the national election to President Joe Biden, then he's taking government documents to his Florida residence when he left office. Yeah, that's a $1.50 story. And that was from CNBC. Well, Trump has to cough up $1 million, which I doubt. He ever will, because Mr. Trump, in my opinion, is a bag of debt. Yes, yeah. And that lawyer, well, it might be his former lawyer or just a former lawyer in a not so distant future. That is me reporting on this. And you all have a nice day, and I'll talk to you later.